Kane asks, the Albions used indigenous lands as collateral for loans from China. Since the U.S. is bankrupt, can China come take indigenous lands? Have heard that California was given away to China. Is this true?
This has been happening also in Utah, also in Nevada. However, keep in mind, the fraud that's constructed by another cannot stand in law relative to the estate of another unwilling, unknowing, or uncooperative and non-consenting party.
So is it not
human
true?
Trafficking and war crimes against humanity and treason all are sealed with what is called death. So a lot of this conflict that you see between the hybrid Europeans who have been pretending to be Americans and their argument against the Manchurian families under the corporate name of China, most of whom are not Chinese. That's their problem. Because guess what? Nobody's buying that stock. How about that?
So are you saying no, they cannot take?
Exactly. I mean, they can go through the emotion. It won't stand because the heirs are speaking up. Look at the rule of inheritance. When the heir, competent heir, or what is called descendable heir, speaks up and stands forth, the FOFR or trustee of the estate must release the estate. Noble Ali spoke up since 1913. Why is everybody pretending that they didn't hear the call? And we still been talking. A rebuttal of their operations by law all over the world is called reversion of estate. There you go. We do not stand as surety for any United States corporation, operation, or corporate entity or subsidiary, period, at any point or moment in time. Now, they can play all they want with their private instruments for human trafficking. Well, human trafficking is called genocide operations. I think the wages for that is death.
So, whoever IAMHH Temple is says, why is Taj Tariq Bey speaking for hours on YouTube instead of going straight to the courthouse? What happened to unity?
What courthouse? There are no lawful courts operating at North America since 1789. Therefore, among Moors who are the real people of the land, we've been activating consular court, i.e. Article 3, constitutional principle courts that supersede even the adoption of that constitution, for we're the heirs of the land. So how dare you make such false claims?
I'm going to get you all hyped up. People are in rare form tonight.
And keep in mind, the information is out there now, and people are learning. And as you all know, I always tell people to do research. And a lot of these people and trolls will find themselves in a very uncomfortable position as these people start waking up and seeing who they've really been working for. They can talk trash all they want to, because how do you say, if the checks of life that you all and I and all of us have been writing, Saturn is cashing them at an exponentially speedy rate. You're not waiting to some other generation to get your crap off anymore.
So True Don Dada says that you are not a prophet. I never heard you say you were.
Who said that I was?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I never.
Why did they say that?
I don't know. Another troll. That's all right. I'm just gonna read them.
That's interesting.
I know. It's like who said you were? Never said you were.
People are funny.
Right.
You know, it's interesting. People sometimes just don't want to admit when you said something that's provably right,
Yeah.
and that proves them wrong.
Right.
Particularly when they've been talking trash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's a fake Romney. I don't know who this Romney person is. Okay. Would Michael Stout ask, would the 13th Amendment be considered dead law as well?
Yeah, it write this down so you can do the research. It would be referred to as negative law. Now, the real deal is when you look at the 13th and the 14th Amendment in its original format, the 13th Amendment was written or adjusted in a timeline before negative law operations came in. Now, the 14th and 15th Amendment, when you do research, you will see was put in place to cover up the original 13th Amendment, or what is renowned as the 1320.
But they couldn't take it out. They just added a new one.
No, you notice that they don't have the original in the book. That's part of the alteration. This is why you see many of the scholars and teachers will not teach the original article of Amendment 13 with its 20 sections. However, for those of you who are on the call, do the research in the congressional records and you'll find it for yourself. And you will also find that many of the trolls who come on trying to dismiss what we've been telling the people, you'll find them to be liars. Now, I expect you all to hold them accountable for their lying asses and injuries that they have caused to our people over the years.
Theodore Moses Antoine Bay says, according to the Organic Constitution for the United States, gold-backed Moorish sovereign dollarium is the new money. Your thoughts, please, Grand Sheik?
Because it's not the new money, it's the old money. It always was.
Now,
by any other name, gold and silver coin is the money.
They're saying a dollar. It's called a dollarium.
So now, who has right to make law, enforce law? The true heirs or true Americans, or a corporate American? Answer the question yourself.
Okay. Visionary's other important question has popped up. When traveling across to Asia from America, do we use the regular U.S. passport and present our nationality card to differentiate our status?
All right, this is what happens. Remember, many things, and this is where Moors need to be active and not passive. United States Corporation Company passport itself is a fraud for shipping. However, many compromised people are forced to use it as transitions, or much transition that must take place has not taken place yet. Never confuse it with a legitimate rite of passage instrument. Nevertheless, keep that in mind.
So,
and a nationality card is what you would call a legitimate and de jure instrument. A U.S. passport is a fraudulent instrument under human trafficking.
So what is this thing with this? Again, they're starting to push. I think by 2023, they want this real ID.
So real. So that means the other one wasn't. That means how can you have a real ID unless you've been operating in the unreal?
Yeah.
No, that's an admission to the fraud, isn't it? Isn't it? The fact that it's even being brought up is showing you that a vital instrumentality has been missing from the social fabric, hasn't it? Hasn't it? Hasn't it? But the fact that they're now having problems with so-called immigration, Now, all of a sudden, they're concerned about diversity, aren't they? Aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
However, if they don't deal with it, they can't solve the problem, can they? And if they charge it to others, they got to charge it to them, don't they? Don't they? Think about it. So now we're in a political dilemma, aren't we? We and them. We have been artificially and under a color of authority and under a color of law and under a color of offices being suppressed artificially under colored law and under the Christian black codes. Now it's coming back to bite them. So chickens come home to roost, as Malcolm said. The chickens have come home to roost, haven't they? For a lot on their side and ours too, including a lot of the haters of Malcolm. The chickens have come home to roost. They're going to have to deal with these issues, and that still goes back to the issues with them 11 Moors, isn't it? Don't it? To resolve this issue, they're going to have to deal with diversity and who's real, who's fake. So true. Now, when they talk about, as an example, people coming from Mexico or Guatemala or Nicaragua or Brazil or America, any of the members or the peoples of America coming to another part of America, they're Americans, aren't they? Uh-huh. But the people, the Paleoliths from Europe under colonial operations aren't Americans, are they? So if they're going to demand nationality cards from them, where's their nationality card? And America's a continent, not a country. Keep that in mind. The fraud is coming out, ain't it? Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
David asked the question, is the term civil rights an oxymoron? Isn't civil law and rights, I guess, come from the creator?
So correct. Rights and privileges are two separate categories of information and status. Rights are unalienable. Privileges can be liened or licensed. It is absolutely so clear. This is why I'm appreciative of some of you who have been out there in different territories across the land teaching civics, so that these things will be cleared up among ourselves and among our family members, because they're going to have to be addressed. Because if they're not addressed, guess what? Structured civilization falls apart. This is the problem that they're having right now. And those who've been denying this are finding themselves in an uncomfortable position while they're busy trolling that these things are affecting them too. Oh, real ID cards? Since when was a private driver's license an identification? But yet it's been used that way fraudulently, but yet people have been defending that driver's license knowing it's a fraud. Why? Because they had criminal operators operating the private trafficking venues called traffic courts. And I challenge anyone to show in any constitution or treaty where traffic court was established. It was not, it is not, it is unconstitutional, it's a fraud, and it's a criminal operation. And the RICO Act should be instituted against such persons.
Okay, Chang 502011 says, Grand Sheikh Taj, if I was born in Northeast Africa, do I have the right to claim myself as an Aboriginal Moor of Northgate America as well?
There's two things, jus soleil and jus sanguinis. Jus sanguinis is the organic people of the land. Jus soleil is a political action, i.e. a legislation, which has no holding or no standing superior to jus sanguinis. Therefore, being born somewhere doesn't make you anything. They can tell you that, but it has no standing in right law. So it wouldn't be based on you being born, it'd be based on your pedigree.
So does that he would not need to.
In other words, the so-called jus soleil would be talking about 14th Amendment citizenship. That's what that's based in.
But being an East African, he's still a Moor.
So you're a Moor, because that's your pedigree, that's your bloodline. That has nothing to do with what you being born someplace. That's a political ens legis operation. It's dead next to jus sanguinis. In other words, you didn't have to be born here to claim your Moorish birthright.
Okay.
That's your bloodline, your pedigree. Distinguished, has nothing to do with belief system, has nothing to do with any legislation. It has to do with your bloodline. That cannot be legislated. And it can't expire.
I like this. Mr. Dark Element said RNA and DNA didn't even exist 50 years ago, and neither did cholesterol.
They all did. If you pay attention to all of these games that they have been playing with the people, it has been to separate the people from their land, i.e. their estates. And I guarantee you 90% of the people, and many people have done this, who have sent blood out to these hybrid European corporations, have sent them to multiple ones from the same family and getting different results. Well, that tells you everything. You know, even like, let's keep this simple. You can take a third grader and give a third grader a mappamundi or a map, and have the third grader look at the continents as they are designated on the map, and they will see Asia, Africa, Europe, America, etc. And a child would know that America is a continent. Now, the uneducated and juvenile thinking and miseducated parent will turn around and tell the children that America's a country. So you can see the trouble that we've been in. That must be fixed.
Here we go again. Butcher Bird says, and I'm thinking this is directed towards you because it says as it's written, why ain't you, CHU, doing something about Jamal with 1,000 question marks?
Why ain't Jamal doing something about Jamal?
Okay.
That's the same knowledge.
Okay.
We've talked in the past. And as a matter of fact, people directly try to talk directly to them, and for people who so-called claim to represent them. And they said they had their thing covered. So they've got competent people among themselves. So why don't you call Jamal?
Okay.
However, they didn't break any laws. They may have, in the opinion of many, bridged some fundamental protocols, but they broke no laws. They did nothing that hybrid Europeans don't do every day, going to gun ranges.
Some are comments, you know what I mean? They don't always need to be. Not to apologize. Gotta write this stuff. That's true. Gus Ogg says you don't own the car when you register it. You sign over to them. You're just a keeper and hold every bit of responsibility, which is
all right.
true.
Let's back up to this. Color of law, color of operation, and fraud has no statute of limitations. The owners of the United States Corporation Company, via members of the Roman Curia, most of whom are foreign Europeans pretending to be Americans and operating as governors of the corporate states, have, unbeknownst to the people, wrongfully, fraudulently, deceptively, and criminally claimed the original manufacturer's titles of origin. Those of you who are on this call, write this down. Original manufacturer's titles of origin, and have not told the people that they have stolen the people's private property that they have earned by their labor, etc., and then have used those original titles to back their own private corporate debt and issue to the people fraudulently certificates of title, which are not titles to those vessels, etc., and have falsely had people register their private property to their private corporate state, and they have used it as surety to back their private debt. Now, you tell me, tell your family members that the people who've been going to car dealerships, used or new, were told that when they so-called purchased the car. They were not. So what you should be talking about is the criminality of these governors, secretaries of state, all pseudo dead offices who have been robbing the people's estate to back their private debt and transferring the finance to outside flush funds or slush funds in other countries, etc., for themselves. And that includes the congressmen and the senators, who all know that platform of operation is a fraud. And then they tell people the vehicle or the vessel doesn't belong to them. Yeah, right. It's called fraud. And fraud has no statute of limitation. And any injury coming to the people, you need to look at these congressmen and senators who are pocketing your estate behind your back.
Okay, Aduke says companies are beginning to mandate the V, and if you don't get it, you're fired. What is your take on it?
They're coming open with their dumb diverses and their unum sanctum operations. This is back to what I said before.